Hey guys and gals, welcome to episode 1 of Inside the Mind podcast. My name is Adam, here with my longtime friend and cousin Nic Boonstra. Nick,
Thanks for having me, Adam.
thanks for coming on. So obviously you've been an athlete your whole life, play a multitude of sports. Maybe for those that don't know you, give us a bit of a background of your sports history.
Okay, so started playing sports early. Was up on skates when I was about 2.5, and really went hard with the hockey up until about high school, until I tried football. It was grade 9, and fell in love with football. Trained, worked out, wanted to gain weight. Ended up playing university football for McMaster, and just finished my 4th year there. And now I'm not playing any sports anymore. Enjoying kind of retired life, but sports has always been a huge part of my life, and will continue to be.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you've had a lot of experience with sports throughout your life. How do you think that's kind of shaped your mentality, coming up to a big game or, a pivotal moment in the game? How do you think, your long history with sports has helped shape that? Have you seen an evolution as you've grown up?
I'd say I have. I mean, when you're younger and you don't quite grasp the meaning or the pressure yet when you're just a kid, you do subconsciously, I think. Mm-hmm. I think it prepares you later on in life for when, you get to the university level or you get to a higher rep level for some kids. Those being in those high-pressure moments as a kid kind of prepares you to deal with it better and, just stay focused in game time.
That's one thing I think that I didn't get a chance to do because I only grew up playing house league or select sports and never kind of came to those big championship game moments or anything. So I think still, when I play sports today, I still kind of get that anxiety. But you think playing those early championship games, high-level rep games early on in your life helps shape you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you used to get earlier when I was not really young, but, I would say high school years, a big championship game would come up and you'd get the butterflies and the very nervous, and those things never go away. It's kind of the excitement and the fun is, feeling those butterflies and feeling the nerves before the game. But just the way you channel it and the way you use the nervous energy and kind of convert it to focus is more, it's easier to do when you've had the experience before.
Have you found that one sport was easier than another to kind of get over those mental hurdles or to better prepare for a game?
You know what? That's interesting, actually. I found, because I played hockey most of my life and then soccer and moved on to football. And I found with sports that have games more regularly, so for hockey, you could have a tournament and you could have 3-4 games in the span of 2 days, that the mental aspect of the nerves don't kick in quite as hard as something per se football. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because I played hockey when I was younger, so there was more experience on the back end. But I found with football, just the one game a week and only 8
There's
games in a season
throughout the week.
The nerves build up through the week, and it was much more mentally. It was much tougher to
get prepared for.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
I hear ya. I think it probably has to do with kind of level of play as well. For football, playing university sports, university level, you're playing against guys that are kind of going to the CFL maybe or other leagues. Yeah,
you don't really think about that pre-game. I mean, my mentality, whether it's the right one or not, was always, I'm gonna kill whoever's in front of me. I'm gonna knock them over. I'm gonna run over. I'm gonna get a touchdown. I'm gonna bust a 99-yarder. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be the best that I can be. Just because if I went into a game thinking that, oh my God, I'm playing a guy that's this good or that good, it psychs myself out. Mm-hmm. I would rather go in there and run at a defensive end who's 280 pounds and think I'm going to kill him and get blown up rather than think I'm going to get blown up and then you're going to get hurt.
How do you think that changes when you're playing an individual sport? Because I know you've done boxing in the past, and that was kind of competitive. And we did, we play our tennis here and there, not super competitive, but recreational. But that's kind of a different aspect of sports, right? You're lining up one-on-one against somebody. It's not a team game. Do you find any differences in kind of your focus towards the game or your focus on your opponent if it's an individual sport?
Yeah, individual sport, like when I was boxing per se, it's very I guess lonely is the word, right? It's all on you. And for me, I found with individual sports, I put an immense amount of pressure on myself, and I got very, very in my own head, very very down on myself at times with mistakes, because when you're playing a game like football or hockey and you've got teammates around you and things aren't going right, it could be your fault, the team's fault, or the flow of the game, and maybe it'll change over the course of the game. But when it's just you out there and there's no excuses, there's nobody else's fault, and things aren't going the way you planned it in your head. I mean, it's tough to not get down on yourself and let that kind of take over as the flow of the game.
That's one thing I noticed too, playing team sports. If I made a mistake or something, I always kind of wish that somebody else would make a mistake right after me, as it kind of takes the heat off me. But if you're kind of doing something like boxing or tennis, where it's individual, you make a sport and there's kind of, unless the other guy makes a mistake, the kind of, the heat's on you until there's less opportunities to take the heat off you, I'm trying to say, which sucks a lot. One thing I wanted to talk about, because I'm kind of dealing with it right now, and I think a lot of athletes deal with it, is injuries and kind of the mentality of coming back from injuries. Obviously, we've both been athletes majority of our lives, and we've had our fair share of injuries. Walk us through kind of your mental state, I guess, through an injury, kind of when the injury happens, and then, surgery or rehab, and then afterwards coming back from it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because looking back on my kind of athletic career, I believe that what made me the athlete I am today was actually my ACL surgery. I was really getting the groove of football. I got grade 9 under my belt, worked out, played grade 10, got significantly better. I was ready to hit the senior level. And then I tried out for a rep football team so I could play in the summer. Yeah. And on the very first snap, I ended up tearing my ACL.
In a game or a practice?
In the tryout.
Oh, okay, tryout.
It was the first snap I took. It was an inside run drill. Just made a cut and pop, goes the knee. And I was down, but I think everything from that surgery, because I was so determined to come back from it. I was so determined. I loved football so much. I thought I could make something with myself in football. That I just went nuts with the rehab. I mean, I was staying at the physio place for three hours a night, like 4 or 5 nights a week. They loved me over there. I would, on my lunch break, I was doing squats and lunges down the field, and I just got so obsessed with getting back to a level, that I was at beforehand, that I actually blew my old self out of the water. And it was, being so focused on my rehab and so focused on getting my leg better and stronger, that actually shaped kind of my mentality throughout my whole training. And I grew stronger as a person. And, I came back from that knee injury, but it is tough. It's down. You're making all these strides, and then you get hurt, and then you got to rehab and you got to come back. So I say that was the kind of like the slingshot to me coming back. But then when I got to the university level, I started having more problems in my end of my first year. I had surgery on my thumb as well, and that was it was tough, because I made so many strides, trying to break the starting roster, I was a scout team player first year. The last game of the year, he said, okay, we're going to dress you for the game. I didn't get in, but I got to dress, and it was a great feeling. And then right in spring camp, I just freaky injury, and I had to have surgery on my thumb. Yeah. And, it's tough. And then, you grind from that, you come back. And for me, I got hurt again. I separated my
Your collarbone, wasn't it?
Yeah, I separated my shoulder second day of training camp in the third year. And, you just gotta keep your eye on the prize. You can't let anything come in your way, and you gotta,
Was football the primary sport you've had injuries in, or have you had any major hockey injuries or boxing injuries, or is it primarily football?
In terms of ligaments and injuries of that sort from the neck down, I would say football hit me with the injuries. Hockey, I had a bad problem with concussions. I had 3 concussions from hockey, none from football, but so it's different.
When you came back from those injuries, whether it was the concussion or ligament injuries, how hard was that first day back? Whether it was a practice or a game, was it in the back of your mind?
Yeah, for the ACL, the first game after the ACL, you don't know what it's going to happen. You don't know, because I mean, with an injury like that, it feels okay when you're walking around, you're jogging, it feels okay. You try to get up to a sprint in practice, and I mean, you think it's okay, but you never really know until that first hit, right? So you kind of go in there a little worried about what could happen to your knee. But I mean, for me, in terms of my mentality, and I guess you've known me for long enough, I'll just run full steam, and whatever happens. And you know, my knee's held up since. So you can't really play thinking about not getting hurt or if I'm healthy. If you're on the field and you believe that you're healthy enough, you got to trust it, or you're gonna get hurt playing conservatively.
Comes a lot just to confidence, and you feel like that kind of just came naturally to you. Maybe some smaller exposure to injuries growing up and kind of built up so that when you have more of a major injury, you can.
Yeah, maybe.
One thing that I'm kind of dealing with right now with my ankle injury from tennis is like it just kills me to watch tennis. Like I just like it's almost like cringing at it, watching like a bad car accident or something. Like I don't want to watch it, but at the same time I do, just because I'm so like.
But do you think that's because you're watching their ankles and saying, look how hard he's stomping on his ankle, or is it because you want to get back out there?
I think it's because I want to get back out there. Like I'm just at the moment so obsessed with tennis that being out of it due to an injury, and then like I almost like miss it so much that I don't even want to watch it because it just like brings up like bad emotions. Did you feel the same way when you tore your ACL from football? Maybe more so towards the university level, or was
Yes and no. I get where you're coming from there, but something that I used initially when I did it, and I had to watch that first season because I missed my grade 11 high school year, and I was watching, the starter, the grade 13 guy. He went down, so the guy who was supposed to be under me got to play, and that was tough. It was tough to watch him get my opportunity and kind of in my head. Yeah. But when I got up to the university level and I got hit with a few injuries up there, something I used. I loved football so much, so something I used to get past that was I just went crazy in the film study. I went crazy in the film and. Watching technique and watching what the guys who were succeeding are doing. And I got obsessed with like really knowing, the theory of our playbook, reading defenses and all that stuff. And there's other aspects of the game. So maybe with tennis, you can maybe really focus on, the stroke of their forehand or how they're hitting their backhand or, and get very technical and break it down on a level that maybe you wouldn't have the time to break it down on when you're eager to get out there and play. Because when you want to get out there and play, you're just, you're hitting the ball. But maybe you can break it down at a further level and might grow your love for it even more.
Yeah, that's interesting because one thing that I've kind of read a lot of research about is kind of when athletes train and try to get better at sports, they always think it's about doing it. Like you have to be in practice, you have to be in the game and kind of practice the motions. But there's a lot of research coming out that like just kind of visualizing things or more like mental exercises, I guess, can indirectly improve your performance in a game.
But yeah, they're moving towards that more in football, especially at the higher levels. They're doing the no contact practices, and they just got helmet on, they walk through, and it's more about understanding what you're doing and getting it drilled in your head so that when it is game time, you can do it at full speed, proper, everything properly at full speed, as opposed to just flying full speed for the sake of flying full speed. There's playing fast and playing right, and then there's just recklessly, running around.
Last thing I wanted to talk about was burnout in sports, because that's something I've read a lot of research about recently. And kind of what has been your experience with burnout? Have you found that maybe maybe not yourself, but maybe your teammates or other people you've observed? One thing that I've kind of read a lot about is kind of as the pressure kind of gets more and more onto you, some people start to lose the love of the game, and that causes them burn out quickly. Have you seen anybody kind of anonymously succumb to that, or maybe your opinions on that?
Well, I feel for athlete burnout, there's kind of, for me, when you say athlete burnout, I think of two things. First of all, for the personal athlete, just themselves. A lot of athletes get, they really think they got a shot, and they really think that if they work hard enough that they can make it, and they get into this kind of routine where you're almost working too hard. And there's a difference between working too hard and working hard and smart, right? Like if you never rest and you never recover, you're gonna die out, and you're not going to be able to work as hard as you could be working if you had taken that rest day and that proper recovery. But you get so obsessed with, I got to get up early, I got to train when I come home from work or after school, and then you burn out yourself, which is, you think you're working harder than everybody else, but you're really hindering your own performance. And then on a team aspect, I've been a part of a team where, we started the season hot, and then just the schedule was, and the pressure of the season moving forward, and it felt like we were, on 24/7. It felt like we had no time to ourselves. And as the season went on, I saw my teammates kind of walking around. I'd see them around the school, and they'd be zombies, and we'd be walking around half dead, we were like the Walking Dead. And we started making mental errors, and we started making mistakes that we weren't making a few weeks prior. And I think it was athlete burnout, and we didn't do that well that season. And I do believe that rest and recovery is so important in the mental game, right? You can't, as much as you want to get obsessed and you want to make it all about success. Sometimes the hardest thing for success, and even working out, sometimes when you get in a groove of it, it's hard to take a day off, and you feel bored. And when you got nothing to do on a rest day, you're like, what do I do now? Yeah. It's tough, but sometimes doing that is the most critical thing, so that you can come back the next day and hit it at your true 100%, instead of trying your hardest to give 80%. That you get more out of resting.
I think a big part of athlete burnout too is your motivation of why you're in the sport. Yeah. If it's kind of, you're doing it just because you love it so much, or you're doing it, for money, or, trying to appease somebody else. Or
even I feel a lot of with kids, teens, young adult, are they doing it just because that's all and that's all you're supposed to be doing it, right? If you're the kind of kid that grew up playing sports and then went to high school and was, sports, and now you've just been doing it for so long, are you doing it because you love it, or are you doing it because you're supposed to be doing it? Do you feel like, everybody just expects you to be that person? And if that's kind of what it is, then maybe it's not for you. But if you're doing it because you truly get love out of it, and you're doing it because, you're doing it because you want to, at the end of the day, it makes you happy. And if training makes you happier than going out and drinking at a party, then you should be training, because that's what's making you happy. But if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I wish I was doing this, or I wish I was doing that, then you're going to burn out, and you're not truly, going to give your full, if you're thinking about opportunity cost of something else.
Well, I think that's a good topic to end off on. Gives everybody kind of some food for thought. Thanks for joining me, Nic. If people want to find you on social media, your Instagram is?
Nic Boonstra, Nic, no K.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Inside the Mind podcast. If you want to check me out on social media, my Instagram handle is Carter84. You can also find clips of this podcast on YouTube, and you can check me out on LinkedIn and Medium for articles related to sports psychology and athlete motivation.